Hello, everyone, and welcome to Platform. As you can see, today we have several guests with us, and I want to welcome you to the platform where you can call in or view and share your beliefs, ideas, and opinions on the multiple issues that surround us in our community today. Today, I'd like to have you meet some people who represent the St. Augustine's Church Restoration Project, and they are going to share with you some information and some ideas regarding that activity. So, Kathy, Susie will speak first.
Oh.
And I'm going
Okay.
to slide over. And it's okay. This is live.
Okay. Hi there. Valerie, thank you for having us on platform.
Okay.
We're thrilled to be here today.
Kathy, would you?
Oh, okay, sure.
And then we'll slide over. Yes, that way.
Yeah.
You got it.
So I'm Kathy Zusi of the Cambridgeport Neighborhood Association, and we have been working with St. Augustine since December or a little bit before then. To help raise some money to secure the envelope of the church, which means fix the windows, the roof, the shingles, add insulation. And all of this has been inspired by the Cambridge Historic Commission, which on December 6th gave St. Augustine's a grant for $50,000 to fix up the church, which was an amazing thing. And then they also gave us a $50,000 matching grant. So what we've been doing ever since then, and we had an open house for the church hosted an open house on December 18th, is we've been raising funds to match the Cambridge Historical Commission funds to fix up this beautiful, old, precious church at 137 Alston Street in Cambridge. So that's a quick intro. So far we've raised $19,000, which is pretty extraordinary, mostly from community members. And our hope is to raise a lot more. We'll be applying for grants in the next weeks and months, and we'll be doing another House of Worship tour of Cambridgeport, and we will be hosting a big fundraiser in June. So stay tuned for that. But today, Valerie, I'm just thrilled that you'll get to meet some congregants from St. Augustine's and learn more about the history of the church and what needs to happen there.
Okay. What we're doing today, go right ahead.
Okay.
Are you done, Kathy?
Yeah.
Okay, and what we're doing, folks, is we're kind of like doing a little musical chairs. So we're changing seats so that the next speaker will have center for and be able to share with you his or her ideas regarding this wonderful project.
Okay, maybe Kit.
Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Kit Eccles from St. Augustine's African Orthodox Church, and I'm very happy to be here. We have for a long time been praying about the condition of our church since maybe 10, 12 years ago. We applied for a grant, a historic grant. And one thing after another happened so that we weren't able to really act on it until just this past year. There was a young architectural student named Gabriel, and then his name really inspired me because we've been
Yes.
approached by so many people who said they were interested in the church, and come to find out that they were interested in acquiring the property by one means or another. And so they would talk and talk and talk, and then finally I'd get to the point where they were interested in buying up the property and turning it into a condominiums or housing or something of that nature. I'm third generation from St. Augustine's. My mother was a minister there, and my grandmother was one of the founding members of the church, Winifred Gittens. Our family has a long history in this city and have been a part of a lot of the growth of the Cambridge and Cambridgeport area. When back then it was called Greasy Village, the area that we lived in, only because there was a rendering company that was a block away from our house, and when the trucks would ride by, the fat from the renderings would leak out of the dumpsters and the containers, and it spread all about the whole neighborhood. And so that's why it was called Greasy Village. But we've been blessed by finding such wonderful people that are still in our community. And just like when we originally started, we couldn't do it on our own, but we got help from other neighbors, other organizations. Kathy Zuzi is a true blessing to us in the Cambridgeport Neighborhood Association. She and the architect Gabriel have been working fervently trying to get us on point and getting our grants and all of our designs and all of that all together. And we've come a lot further than we had before, and I feel now that God is moving for us, and we're gonna have our church back way better than its original opulence. Hopefully this spring, and actually we have planned a get-together dinner, and I'm not sure exactly what date that would be. Kathy, we have thrown some dates together.
We're waiting we'll know more about that in about a month, but if you go to cambridgeport.org, St. Augustine's, you'll learn when the date is as soon as the date is set. Yeah, sometime in June.
And that promises to be a really wonderful time. I hope that many of you listening might be able to attend. My brother, Edward Eccles, is here, and some of our other members. My brother is our senior warden. Antonio is our junior warden. Miss Eloise is our secretary for now, and those three are there. They may have something to add. And Ned, would you like to speak?
It just reminds me of all the good times we had many years ago on Magazine Beach, and in the area we never had to worry about going astray. Everybody would take care of each other's children.
Yes. A
And
true village.
we better not get out of trouble, because the word would get back to our mothers or our fathers before we got home.
Oh, yes. A true
And then we'd
village.
really be in trouble.
And that was the village that really kept us all together. And I mentioned Magazine Beach because that was one of the other programs that
Yes.
Kathy worked on.
You're still working.
We're
That's
still,
right.
Still
well,
working?
actually, the Cambridgeport Neighborhood Association, their first effort was to fix up Dana Park. The second was to fix up Magazine Beach. So we're
alright.
still working on that. And if you go to magazinebeach.org, you'll find out about that effort. But yeah, great things are happening at Magazine Beach.
Yes.
And great things are happening in Cambridge.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember back when we were kids, we used to go to the beach and we were able to swim in the water there. And then shortly afterwards, it was said that we would catch polio if we
At
were
that
to
time,
swim
yes.
in the water. And so we spent more time in the pool that was there, erected. I guess eventually, and they say that the water is clean now there, but I'm gonna wait a while.
Wait, right. A little while longer.
Yeah. But oh my goodness, Kathy and her little organization has done a wonderful job. If you have an opportunity, get by the Magazine Beach area, look at the changes in the grounds there and the pool, how that has changed, and also the powder house, which is by the wall. We used to call it the wall, which sit on there and have good times and sometimes do a little
Naughty times.
tossing the cans up. But thank God for them.
A great place for our youth. I know I have 4 sisters, and we spent a lot of time in Magazine Beach. We'd run over to Stop and Shop, get a sub, cut it into 5 pieces, and get back over to Magazine Beach. So it was really a safe, family friendly community neighborhood for children place to go,
Yes.
where you didn't need parental supervision. Your older sister, your older brother were your guardians, and it was just a wonderful place to be. And I'm hoping that the children now, 4 decades later from where I am, are able to enjoy with all the renovations that have taken place.
Actually, tonight at City Council, there will be a big vote. The city manager is proposing to invest $600,000 into the park that DCR would match. So think positive thoughts, because if that goes through, a lot of amazing improvements will happen at the park. So yeah, think good thoughts.
We're fortunate to live in a city where there is an abundance of wealth, and
Yes.
a lot of people are not afraid to spread the wealth, and I hope that more people are willing to do that. Our church has been a sort of mecca for people in the community. We've had a lot of, in the past, a lot of wonderful dinners, a lot of classical concerts and jazz concerts at the church. We had an organist who was from Japan, and he actually was a graduate of the Berkeley School of Music. We were very fortunate to get him when our organist had passed away, and we didn't have one for quite some time, and we just barely had enough money to pay an organist. And we went to the Berkeley School of Music and happened upon our organist is Jun Toguchi, and Jun has since become a well-known composer, and he's back in Japan, but he does come back here several times a year and always makes sure that he stops by our church to visit us and to share fellowship with us.
You know what? Excuse me for interrupting, but I was wondering if we could show some of the pictures.
Absolutely.
And I'm just going to press over here, and your brother can control. He has pictures there, but we also have pictures on the computer. And
All you have to do is push this button to begin showing some pictures.
and I'm going to remove the phone number so that we. And you can also show these for. Well, let me go clear this so that you can show your pictures. There we go. So you can hold that up. Hold it up a little above your head. There we go. And can somebody
If you can,
talk?
if you can see it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you can see it.
Tell him tell the people what he's doing.
Yes.
He's showing pictures of this. These were, I think, 25 years ago, and these are the ladies of. I think most of the ladies of the church back then.
So is your mother there?
Yes, she is.
Because I think that's
Do you
important
want me
to
to
know.
try
So Kit and
me
Ned's
see if
mother
I can
was
get a
the minister at the church
close
for
up.
many years, from the 70s to about
Bring it down a
the
little bit.
2000s.
Bring it down a little bit because I got a close up their way they can see it a little better. Bring it down right there. Now the people in the audience can get a closer look.
Which is your mom?
She's right.
Okay.
I can't see.
In the white coat? And the
You have
fur?
that pointer? Oh, okay, there you go.
Mama was very photogenic. Always loved to have her picture taken.
Center court, huh?
Mrs. are in the picture up there, and they name the people that you
that-
remember.
We have
Mrs.
on the left that was Louise Harris.
Yes.
We have Bishop Turner's wife, Mrs. Ray Turner. Then the bishop is right behind her, I believe.
And
Yeah.
purple is Mrs.
And
Lee.
purple is our dear church lady, Mrs. Lee. God bless her.
She's
She's
97.
She'd still be here. She's 97
See that
years old.
silver
She might be a little upset me telling her
If you
age, but
pointed it.
she would love to
Pointed
be
at
able
the
to come
computer.
back to the church.
Oh, it doesn't? No, it won't. Okay.
Behind Mrs. Lee is Junior Lynch,
Yeah,
who was
I'm supposed to show
then our deacon.
that he's calling names.
Our
I told you to get up and see what she was saying.
Mrs. Carlotta Thorne is next, and also I am right there behind Mrs. Thorne,
All right.
and Mrs. Barbara Jones is there, next to me.
It has a
And-
red dot.
Who is that? Is there somebody behind Mrs. Jones?
Is that the organist? No, this is 25 years ago.
Oh, yes.
Oh, the
that
organist
is
is,
our
Yeah,
organist.
the organist is, that's the
June.
organist.
Yeah, yeah.
Is right behind.
Yeah, it
Good,
looks like,
yeah.
that's
Use
the
your finger,
organist.
yeah. Let him use
Let's
it.
see
Well, we're
if
also
June in
together.
this picture. Let me have
My
that.
mother
Oh,
is
yeah,
there,
maybe.
Reverend Miriam Eccles in the pink in the mink coat. Behind her, who's that behind her?
It's
I'm
not
not
there,
really
yeah.
looking.
Not working.
But this
I
church
don't
was
know how to
very,
use
very active
It's not
in
that
the
way.
30s and
This
40s
is
and
where the battle
70s through like 2000, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we were
That-
very active, and
See that white thing sitting on the
Big center for the community.
Sticks
uh-huh.
in the back.
I can't see who is that behind
You
my
don't have to
mother.
name them all, just name the ones you know that they don't know them
Yeah.
anyway.
And you would have big parties and in the basement, that was the social
Let me
area.
see that.
Yeah, Marianne Nichols is there, with the sunglasses on, and her mother was an original member of our church who used to do dinners, and she was one of the best cooks Cambridge has ever been graced to have, and anything she made tasted really good.
Let me take this.
What?
Take
You
this
wanna?
one. Take this one.
You would just hold it and you point who it is? Oh, you know this.
Yeah, and this is
Oh, good.
Bishop.
That's the
Okay,
bishop.
you can point out
That's the
there.
bishop.
There's Bishop George Turner.
Down the hall, the first.
This is our
All the way down.
Deacon
first right.
and Warden Junior Lynch. This is
Who's
our,
that guy, huh? Who's that guy?
now Minister Kid Eccles. There is our now Senior Warden Edward Eccles. There is Clement Jones, and this is Elvin Correa,
That's the
and
organist.
our organist June Tugushi.
Yeah.
And behind June is a picture of our founder and primate, Bishop George Alexander McGuire.
We have a better
Oh, the
picture of him on the slide deck,
Uh-huh.
too.
Now I'll hold this for you so you can use the slide deck. Before I put up the slide deck, why don't you tap it so it goes back? Do you know that on the bottom there? No, right on the computer, on your right.
Yeah.
Or
Yes, right there. So go to the front.
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep going. Okay, now I'm going to put it up on the screen.
Oh, you want me to just press every
Right,
slide?
and
Okay.
he can, and you, what I would like you to do is introduce the name of your program, if you have the website, which I didn't type in, but maybe you can type it in while you're there.
What do I do?
Website would be
cambridgeport.org. And when you go there, you can go to St. Augustine's and you'll see pictures of the church. Hopefully, we'll have our video there.
Okay,
And information about the history of the church and the what we're fixing. Because let's show them the church and then talk
Okay.
about what we're going to fix.
go right ahead. That's the first slide.
there's a picture of our church, and you can see that some of the siding is in disrepair. The windows, some of the molding. On the right, you can see one of the windows there, and down below, you can see where the water came down, and it has sort of disintegrated some of the shingles and even some of the siding boards.
Yeah.
And we're in need of quite a bit there. Although we've kept up the interior of the church fairly well.
Yeah. So the plan is to remove the asphalt shingles and to bring back the red shingles. It used to be
Yes,
a red church.
wooden shingle,
Yeah.
cedar shingle church. It was pretty much historically, that was the type of houses and buildings that were part of our Cambridge landscape back in the day, around the turn of the century.
Oh,
Anyhow.
it's back then. Oh,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
built in 1886 and then expanded in 1888. And it's like a time capsule. Inside, we'll go inside in just a few minutes,
Yes.
but it's just like it was almost,
Yeah,
right? It's
normally,
so
Yeah.
exquisite. And in 1993, it was put on the African American sort of history
Historical
tour.
tour.
Yeah.
Right.
Of Cambridge. So here we've got a picture of Bishop McGuire, and pretty soon we'll go into the church and you'll see a color portrait of him. But did you want to speak a little bit about him? He's the founder of the African Orthodox
Yes.
Church, right?
Our Bishop George was a very brilliant man. He studied to become a doctor, and he actually had a calling for working for God. And he studied in England, in the Church of England, and he became a lay priest there, and never really got to do any of the services, though he was very sharp, highly intellectual, knew his Bible backwards and forwards, and never really got an opportunity to get up and do any services or preach or anything because of his color. And I believe that shortly after, I might not have the dates right, but he left when a lot of the people all over the world had immigrated to the United States. He thought that it would be a good thing to come to America and start his own church. And because he felt that in churches in England, in churches in the United States, black people didn't get the opportunity to expound upon the word, to be in leadership positions, and as he was well qualified, he never really got the opportunity. So he came and met Marcus Garvey, and Marcus Garvey had a desire also to come to America and to spread that word of African Americans being apart. Although we had gotten our freedom as from slavery and from from being oppressed, we really never got an opportunity to give out and be in leadership positions. So the bishop decided to start his own church.
Okay.
And
Let's see the inside.
Yeah,
Oh, that's still.
that's.
Now, what is this?
this is a picture of our church from
As-
across on Alston Street,
As it is now?
as it is now.
All right.
And it's just,
And that was taken some years ago. It hasn't changed much from that,
All right.
except that our roof on the other side has taken a lot of weathering.
It
and
needs repair.
It is in dire need of repair.
and it's right across from the old Morse Park.
Yes,
Yeah.
and where the old Morse School used to be.
So just imagine that with new shingles, red shingles, it'll be spectacular.
And it has
Yeah.
a historical, picturesque significance, the way the churches were built in the early century,
Yes.
which I'm proud that Cambridge has chosen to keep some of that historical architecture.
Yeah, and it was designed by Robert H. Slack,
Slack.
who designed the New Bedford County Courthouse, the Harvard
Is that
Peabody Museum. Yeah, and he built, I guess, several of these shingle-style churches, and one of them is in Dallas, Texas.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There's a picture of the organ, which is
It's a Harvey organ.
a Harvey organ.
Yeah, they were the foremost makers of organs, I think, in the Boston
in the area in New England.
and
yeah.
it still works.
And what year are we talking about in regards to how old
It's
is
circa that organ is
100? At
very,
least a century?
very close to 100 years old.
Wow.
Yes,
And it still works.
and it
Yeah.
still works.
And sounds great.
Well, it's not, it needs a little tuning, but it still works, and the keys need to be refaced.
Okay, that's the future. But let's keep moving.
Like
Okay,
Another picture of our church,
okay, let's go inside. I
different
think.
view.
There we go. There's the bishop.
and here is our church, the sanctuary.
There's a
Bishop
big,
McGuire.
a better picture.
Picture of Bishop George McGuire,
What year was he there?
and
Oh, no.
Yeah.
he was there. Actually, he started the church. That was
I didn't know why.
1921, and
I think he died in 1934.
he died. He died. It didn't. Yes, he died in 34.
Yeah.
Now, is this the interior of
This
the
is the
church?
interior
As
of the
it is
church,
today?
as
Yeah.
it is. They're close to what it is today. Our
All
carpet
right.
has changed. There were some. I guess it looks like the piano. You
Oh,
have a
yes.
baby grand piano on the right side there
Mm-hmm.
for his thing now, before his picture, and our Holy of Holies in the very back of the church,
I
or the
see.
front. We have on the left side where part of the choir and the vestry, and on the right side was the choir and the organist.
And is there one more? I think there were 8 pictures,
Can you advance it?
and that's the last
That
one.
is the last one.
I
Yeah.
believe
So you
that's the
can
last picture.
backtrack like slowly as we go back to review.
And I just wanted to
Slowly.
say again, so it was CNA board member Gabe Sira that really initiated this effort and first made contact with Reverend Eccles. He is a architect and organized a house of worship tour of Cambridgeport and fell in love with St. Augustine's. And he was the one that applied for the
Why don't you
grant
bring
from
a chair down here, in here, and you can see the TV a little better. No,
Oh, she's a visitor.
Yeah, but he was the one that worked with Kit and Nen to apply for that initial grant from the Cambridge Historical Commission to fix up the church. And now, so what the scope of work? Do you want to summarize the scope of work?
Yes, we had planned on actually expanding the entranceway and bringing back the old entranceway instead of having the door in the front. Could you bring that back to a picture so we can get that front entrance?
I think you have to go back a little further.
Yeah.
Or further in. I don't know if there's a picture of that.
Yeah. See, on the right side of the church there, you'll see another doorway. Well, that was actually our entranceway originally, and there was no entrance on the front. But you would go inside the gate and walk around to the right, and then go in on the side to a sort of a foyer, which was an open foyer at one time, and that entrance is what we want to bring back to its original. To take off that front, the
Pediment.
Right there, the front,
part,
where the awning is?
opening, where the
All right.
awning is and the door,
All right.
and make the main entranceway on
On
that
the
side.
side. And what would you
And-
put in that area where the door is?
And that
That would
will
just
be
be a
plain.
closed
Maybe
area,
another
windows,
window,
another windows.
yeah, or something. And we actually want to put a lift or a ramp. We were thinking
yes.
a ramp so that it would be
Physically
handicap
challenged people,
accessible.
yes.
Yeah, and we wanted, of course, to put a new roof with insulation and to spruce up the bell tower. Our bell is up there and it still works.
It still
except
works.
that the
That was
rope,
the original.
It
the
was.
original bell, and the rope had jumped the bell wheel, so that we can't use the
stuck
bell
in there.
anymore. Of course, it's been such a long time, over 20 years since we had 15 years since we had the bell working.
I have a question. How long do you think this renovation period is going to take? Have you started?
We haven't started. We're
All
doing
right.
little things
Little
inside.
things.
but-
Spring, right?
Yeah, well, we actually have, so we have 2 grants, as at the end of this week, we'll have 2 grants into the National Trust for Historic Preservation for funding. And so far we've got the 50,000 from the Historic Commission, thank you, Charlie Sullivan and Kit
Yes.
Rollins and the whole board there. And then we've got the 19,000 that we've raised that will be matched by Historic Commission funds. But our goal is to, hopefully we'll raise another 100,000 that the
100,000,
Historic
yes,
Commission will match.
And that would be.
And that's all for the exterior.
That would be
So,
for the
yeah,
exterior.
so you need to know that city funds, CPA funds, can only be used for the exterior of the building, not for the interior.
So do you have other fundraising
We-
activities in planned for the future to
Yes,
assist
with
in the interior?
Thanks to Gabe Sierra, we have 2 other funds that he's working on to work maybe perhaps on the inside of the church. The basement is pretty much wide open.
All right.
We have a lot of room down there that we could use as a gathering place, perhaps for
Children, we need to bring
the
children, little children
children's-
back into the church.
yes.
Teens, we
Meeting
need to bring them
teen-
back into the church.
meeting place for Alcoholics Anonymous,
Yes,
or
yes.
seniors to go down there. We have a senior center right behind, a senior building right behind the church.
I certainly, as a senior, would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Also, something I think that would assist our immigrant community,
Yes.
particularly our English language learners, a place where they could feel comfortable not having enough knowledge of our language, but would have the camaraderie and the diversity that I believe St. Augustine's would offer them.
And we
We'll need
always-
your help also.
What's that?
We will need your help also.
I will do, God willing, I will do everything I
we'd
can.
be glad to have you help
You
us
know,
out,
and
Valerie.
you can be
and-
sure that every week, every Monday, I will start my program off with these pictures just to get embedded into people's minds visually. And then, of course, I will verbally engage them and utilize some of the other media that we have in Cambridge to get this information out throughout our city. You don't have to live in Riverside or the coast in order to contribute to the effort that's being made here. I think it's a Cambridge City effort that all Canterburyans should be doing, whether we're in the North Cambridge, East Cambridge, the Central Square area, Inman Square area. We should all be willing to do what we can to
Yes, like we did
enhance.
back in the past.
Back
That's
in the
how.
past,
That's
we were
how it was back then.
Canterburyans, period.
Yes.
We weren't separated so much by where we lived in neighborhoods, by what community we're from, which is the Cambridge community.
I remember traveling back when I was a kid, and you could tell if somebody came from Cambridge. You could tell who they were. We gravitate to each other. We spoke similarly.
Right.
We kind of almost
There was
looked a
something
lot.
about
There's something about it.
the other thing about Cambridge, and when I was working in security at the high school, we knew when children who did not belong at the high school, because you know
Right.
the high school you guys could eat outside at Montrose and Angelo's and all the other places, and as soon as we had visitors coming into our community, they stood out
From over the bridge.
from over the bridge. And the other thing that stood out was that people who came into our community, particularly from over the bridge, did not understand the diversity. So they didn't know where the separation in Cambridge was, as is in other communities, because there wasn't one.
Right. And
That's
there
what
wasn't that
makes
kind
Cambridge
of
so
racism.
unique.
Yes.
Is that we've had that inclusion since the 1800s. I think Phyllis Wheatley is someone from Cambridge.
Yes.
And that was in 1836. So that has carried through Cambridge. And so we have a lot of multicultural relationships, a lot of intermarriage, a lot of diverse best friends. And that's why I think one of the things that makes Cambridge unique, and the fact that your church is diverse. I mean, when you mentioned your organist is from Japan,
Right.
I mean, how much of an inclusive community can you get when you have invited everyone from
He's
shore
one
to
of
shore?
us. Yes.
And when you come to Cambridge, you become a Canterburyan. I don't know if people know that word, but the Canterburyan is what unites us all, regardless of our cultural, ethnic backgrounds, male, female, or across genders. I also want to be inclusive in that area as well.
He was happy to say, welcome back home to
Yes,
Cambridge.
yes,
This is his home, his
It's
second
home.
home.
Yeah, I grew up on Watson Street. My parents lived on Watson Street, and my mother wanted to buy a 3-decker on Salem Street. But you could only buy a home on Watson Street if
Right.
you get
I
where
was
I'm
in
going.
Washington.
Watson off of
yeah.
Brookline, and adjacent parallel to Watson is Salem Street.
Which is a small street.
Small
short
street, but it was designated for a certain group of people. So my parents ended up going over the bridge, past the Coca-Cola plant, and into Alston.
Yeah.
And they thought they were still in Cambridge. And my sisters were supposed to go to St. Mary's, and I was the black sheep of the family, so I was supposed to go to Ringe or Cambridge High and Latin, not the parochial school.
Yes.
But we ended up in Boston, and but my roots, I moved back to Cambridge after my son was born, and have been here ever since for 34 years now.
So many people have moved away and came back, and some now at a certain point, they weren't able to come back because the
can't
prices
afford to
went
live
up
here.
so high.
But with the
And it's
Affordable
sad.
Housing Act that Cambridge has, and that Mayor McGovern is initiating another affordable housing edict, we're trying to get families to come back into the community because we've lost a lot of our roots to Somerville, Medford, Brockton,
It sure
Boston,
has changed a lot.
because and it has
drastically.
changed our communities and our neighborhoods.
That is the key, is to have the family groups come back and make it an original Cambridge again.
And wouldn't it be
know.
nice for St. Augustine's to be the epic center?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, that would
That's
really
how
be
like
nice,
it used
you
to
know?
be. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay, see?
And you still have that old stove. You've got that
Yes, we
beautiful
do.
old stove in the
I
basement.
remember as a kid that Mrs. Nichols cooking on that stove, making the best fish cakes in the whole wide world.
Oh, my,
Oh,
yeah,
my goodness.
I'm getting that salivating sensation here.
Yeah. We
When
had-
cooking was cooking, and you stood over the oven
and you would wait.
and you didn't heat it up,
Yeah.
you made it.
Come
You know,
out hot off the oven.
So good.
community,
Yes.
the community, and food was communal. So we need to bring that back. There are a lot of traditional things that have been lost through progression. But I think we need to combine the nuances of what's happening in the millennium, my new word, with some of the traditions that have kept the Cambridge community as solidified as it has been. Because with all the changes, we still have our roots.
Yes.
And a lot of communities, Somerville, East Boston, other communities have lost that connection
Lost a lot
because
of
of
it, yeah.
urban renewal and gentrification. But Cambridge has been able to hold on in other areas as well. North Cambridge has been able to maintain their community existence in the Inman Square area. So I think it would be nice to draw people to that central point. And I think that through fundraising and programs like this, and also using other media to get the word out, and start doing, I'd like to see a 50s fundraiser. And I can go find me, because I don't have the hair, but I know I can find an afro wig. And I think I've got some bell bottoms that I might not be able to get into, but they have the elastic band from those days. And that's a wonderful fundraiser, particularly for the young people who I think are seeing that music transcend some of the music that I'm noticing that they're listening more to the old music, because
of the 50s and the 60s.
it has a message,
Yeah.
and it doesn't tell you what to think, and it's more communal, I think. But then again, we're getting a little astray here. But that's what you can do when it's live. I mean, and again, you're welcome to come individually or collectively. I'm sure that when people look and see all of you here, that shows not only the diversity in our Cambridge, but how men and women working together are doing what we feel is necessary to enhance different aspects of our community, and to keep St. Augustine's, so that my granddaughter, when she visits and I bring her there, and my son comes back and he remembers his experiences at St. Augustine's, and then